Good morning. It's April 16th for me. You'll see this video on Tuesday. And I'd like to talk about money and power. And that's what's driving today's GOP. And it's been driving them probably for the last 28 years. Money and power. Is there anything more important? For them, it comes first, second, and third. I don't like to be partisan, and I don't think I am when I talk about Trump's GOP. And just to be clear, J.D. Vance, I didn't realize it, is part of Trump's GOP. So I'm not so keen on him running for the House or the Senate out of Ohio. Just another person who would break our institutions apart. Another person who believes in voter suppression, who doesn't like immigrants. And now we know why the GOP really doesn't like immigrants. And I'll explain that in a little while. Who loves the NRA. And there's a good reason to love the NRA. We the people are expendable. Like Citizens United, thinks corporations are people unless corporations are not influencing them and giving them the money. So there's a lot of reasons the GOP loves power and money. It's their world, and it's all they care about. And winner-take-all politics has benefited them mightily. They've lost 7 out of the 9 last elections. Doesn't matter. 41.5 million of us are unrepresented in Congress. Why? Because of representation. I figured out if 400,000 people make up one representative in New York State alone with about 22 million folks, we should have about 50 representatives. What have we got? 27? That would change the power mightily. Not in the Senate, of course, but certainly in the House. So there's ways to get around money and power. Democracy, that's not partisan. That's something even FDR said. Hey, it's fragile, but it's better than any other government. And I agree, democracy is better than any other government. And that's why we want free and easy access to the polls. We want to be able to elect legislators on the state and the federal government level that represent the majority of we the people. And it's a known fact, the majority wants ease of voting. We don't want voter suppression. Why would the GOP persist in this? Trump's GOP does, because they've run abusive systems throughout all their states, and on the federal level, they pass nothing. Absolutely no reforms that benefit we the people. Why do they want voter suppression? Obviously, it's because if I were in a minority's shoes, I wouldn't vote for someone who hurt me, who put me into toxic dumps, who gave me very low wages so I couldn't survive, who made sure that I had access to guns so that I could have killings in my own community, who gave me food shortages and didn't let me get the vaccine, would I vote for that person? Not unless I had Stockholm Syndrome, I wouldn't. So there's a reason for voter suppression. It's the same reason for immigrants. Trump's GOP is happy to allow 11 million immigrants into this country. And I sure hope that we're vaccinating every single one of them, because we need herd immunity. And the way to get herd immunity is to vaccinate everyone in our population. But again, why would they want immigrants to have the vote or to even be counted properly? They're not interested. They'd rather exploit them. I saw Building the American Dream at the Ford Foundation. I heard what those poor immigrants had to say about construction in America. They're paid minimal wages. They had to beg for water for 2 breaks when it's 105 in the shade. And if they don't get paid, they can't complain, because if they do complain, they can be deported. And then what happens to their family and their kids who have been born in America? So giving them the vote, do you think they'd vote for Trump's GOP? I don't think so. Not even a little. So why give them the vote when they're totally expendable and unseen? Same thing with prisons, right? Prisons are a peculiar entity in this country. The prisoner is counted as part of the population where he or she is incarcerated. Well, that's great for those states, but then when they're released, they go back to the original state that they came from, and there's no money to support them, to give them seed money so that they can survive, to give them counseling so that they can get over their drug and addiction problems. So while they're incarcerated, who cares what happens to them? And I'm sure that's how the GOP feels, because they're producing cheap products for American industry. They're also giving these poorer states more income. So if they stay in jail, it really doesn't matter to the Trump GOP. They're happy. They benefit in so many ways, including greater representation in Congress. While the state who sent these poor people there suffers mightily. I think that prison gerrymandering has to change too. It's got to be a better way, folks, because representation in this country for the majority is not working. And what else do we have? We've now got mass violence with guns. Well, as we know, the GOP loves the NRA. And the NRA is infatuated with Trump's GOP as well. But we have murders taking place on a daily basis. And the rest of the country would like to see background checks, assault weapon bans. They'd like to see large magazine bans as well. All good things. And I'd like to see policing reform. I don't understand shoot to kill. I don't understand that when somebody takes their weapon, or what may or may not be a weapon, and drops it down and raises their hands, that they're now shot. There's something wrong in society. Very, very wrong. Are we all suffering from trauma? I kind of think so. We've had to go through so much in the last few years that I know this week when I took a break from everything, I said to myself, I finally feel a little calmer. And I didn't realize how much trauma I had indeed suffered from, say, 2016 through the pandemic. Am I delighted to have the vaccine? You bet. Being able to socialize with people who've got the vaccine also and see them face to face is wonderful. And giving somebody a meaningful hug is another wonderful experience. So you bet I'm happy to have the vaccine. Well, so far, Biden is acting on behalf of the majority. However, without fundamental change, we can't have an NLRB, a labor relations board that changes and really allows unions to exist in this country. What happened in Bessemer was not the fault of the people. It was the fault of the laws that favor corporations over people. Now that corporations are getting involved in democracy, I can only say kudos because that's where you were supposed to be all along. They say that there's moral money out there and corporations are invested in moral money. Well, let's see. That means they care about the environment, they care about their labor, and they care about their corporate governance. When they start withholding money from Trump's GOP and they say enough is enough, then I'll know that corporations are indeed people, and maybe at some point we can actually get money out of politics and develop statesmen and women instead of politicians who are short-term invested. We can't have short-termism in anything, not in business, not in government, and certainly not in our lives. We're happiest when we know that we have a routine, we've got a job, we have our families, and we can take care of them. And all of that is going to take fundamental change. When Biden finally gets rid of the filibuster, we'll see fundamental change. Or if Joe Manchin finally gets enough money from lobbyists who are courting him on the right and on the left, maybe he'll finally figure out a way that he can support democracy and labor rights and police reform and gun controls, regulation that protects Americans, whether they're in their own communities and committing murder, or whether we're seeing the spectacular one-offs where life doesn't matter. All life matters. All life is precious, and there should be a way for us to preserve it so that 10 million people plus can go back to work and have a living wage and feel that they are part of the American society and the American dream. Thank you for listening, everyone. Welcome to my home, and I hope you have a blessed weekend. See you next week. You can bet on it.